The movie begins with a woman named Iris, who is in her bedroom with her husband, feeling very sad because her son has recently died after falling off a mountain. Iris picks up her knife and drives to the forest. She arrives at the top of the mountain where her son fell to his death. There, she sees a picture of her son and stands at the summit. Iris is about to jump from the mountain to her death when a person named Richard appears. Richard tries to talk to Iris, despite her repeated requests to keep quiet. Richard tells Iris about the ups and downs of his life. Then Iris also opens up and tells him about the death of her son. Afterwards, they walk back to their cars together. When they reach their cars, Richard knocks Iris unconscious with an electric shock, then ties her up with a rope and puts her in the back of his car. Iris regains consciousness, cuts the rope using a knife from her pocket, and then attacks Richard, causing his car to crash into a tree. Then, they both get out of the car, and Richard shows Iris the syringe, telling her, "While tying you up, I injected you with a paralytic agent, which will paralyze your whole body within 20 minutes. Then, Iris runs into the woods, and Richard also follows her into the woods. Iris sets a 20-minute timer on her watch. Within minutes, one of her legs becomes paralyzed. Iris hides under a tree to avoid Richard. However, many ants soon crawl onto her hand and face, biting her relentlessly. She screams in agony, and Richard hears her cries, immediately turning towards her. Iris crawls to the river's edge and leaps in to escape Richard. Iris clings to a tree and pulls herself out of the river. Shortly thereafter, her entire body becomes paralyzed. Meanwhile, Bill, a passerby, notices Iris and, placing Iris in a wheelbarrow, takes her to his home. As soon as Bill is about to call the police, Richard reaches there and tells him that his name is John and Iris is his wife. Bill becomes suspicious of Richard, then attacks him, beats him up, and calls the police, telling them to come here as soon as possible. Then, Richard sees a knife, picks it up, and kills Bill with it. He then sprinkles petrol on the Bill's house and sets it on fire. Iris is hiding under the sofa. To avoid the fire, she raises and lowers the window blinds. Richard then looks at the window and realizes that Iris is inside the house. Richard then enters the house, picks up Iris, and puts her in Bill's car, then leaves from there. Richard stops the car at the petrol pump along the way. Richard is about to fill up the petrol in the car when he notices a notice on the machine which says, "Card reader out of order. Please pay inside." Richard then goes inside the store to pay. Iris tries hard to get out of the car, but her body is completely paralyzed. Then she sees two girls who were taking their pictures. Then she sees a mechanic, but he too is far away. The effect of the paralytic agent is slowly wearing off, and Iris unfastens her seatbelt. At the same time, a small child approaches the car and sees Iris. The sight of this child reminds Iris of her own child. The child's mother quickly whisks him away to their car. Just then, Richard arrives and refastens Iris's seatbelt before driving off. On the way, Richard gets a call from his daughter, who tells him that she has received the top grade in every subject. Then Richard's wife talks to him and asks him to meet her, so he agrees to meet her on Sunday. Richard arrives at the location where his car hit the tree and begins repairing his car. Meanwhile, a police officer arrives at the scene. Richard lies to the police officer, telling him that his wife is a drunkard and caused a car accident after drinking. However, the police officer does not believe him. Iris rolls down the car window, and the police officer starts checking the car. The police officer sees an injection in the car and realizes that Richard is a serial killer and quickly tries to pull out his gun, but Richard attacks him and kills him. Richard then splashes petrol on the police officer's car and sets it on fire before leaving the scene. On the way, Iris explains to him that don't do all this. One day you will be caught. You have family. Think about them. Iris asks him to leave me on the road. I won't tell anyone. And then you start your new life with your family. But he doesn't agree. Richard then turns the car around and stops on the jetty. Then, Iris tries to inject Richard with a paralytic agent, but can't because her hands are still paralyzed. Richard then put Iris onto a small boat, intending to take her away and dispose of her immobile body in the same location where he had abandoned his previous victims. Iris telling Richard that there is a toy belonging to her son in her pocket. She asks Richard to take it out and show it to me. As soon as Richard starts taking toy out of Iris's pocket, Iris pulls a knife from Richard's pocket and stabs him in the throat. Then she starts rocking the boat, causing Richard to fall into the water. Richard tries to climb boat, but Iris picks up a gun and shoots him. Some of the bullets hit the boat, causing it to start sinking. Richard then swims to shore, while Iris begins to sink with the boat. After some time, the effects of the paralytic agent wear off completely, and Iris emerges from the water. Then Iris sees Richard on the shore and goes to him, and he is dying. Iris thanks him and leaves from there, and the story ends here.